Well, hello there. Hi, hello. It's been a pretty long time, hasn't it? I think the last video I dropped was the trailer for this video, actually, where I said that this video would be coming out relatively soon. What a massive L on my part. Never doing that again. And when I said that, I did in fact mean it. I didn't think that this video would take me anywhere near this long to make, and it honestly probably shouldn't have. I could have gotten this video done a lot faster if I fully focused on it and wasn't trying to do other things at the same time. That, and if I didn't have so many interruptions with being able to edit the video for long periods of time in the first place. Even though I knew that it was taking me far longer to make than it should have, I just didn't want to let the video go because I'm a bit stubborn sometimes. And I had already put so much work into the video, I just didn't want to give it up, even though I knew by the time I was finished, it might not be all that relevant anymore. But yeah, so before the video starts, there's just one thing that I wanted to mention before the video starts. That was an oddly phrased sentence, my bad. And it is mainly the fact that this video was indeed recorded a while ago. Some parts were even recorded before BORUTO chapter 67 had even dropped. In fact, majority of it was actually recorded before then. So keep that in mind when I say a couple of the things that I do inside of this video. Don't worry, they will be addressed in the later half of the video. So although this video might not be all that relevant anymore, I hope that you guys still find it to be relatively entertaining. Ultimately, that is why I'm here at the end of the day, so I think it's about time that we actually start the real video now. So, I will see you guys in a little bit. Peace, peace. Hi, hello, it's me, Saran. So, you've seen the title of the video, you clicked on it, you know what we're talking about. And that is Code's race to getting to the Leaf Village to get his limiters taken off via Amato. But although this is very important to Code, this is not his primary goal right now. His primary goal is to take Kawaki and to take him back to Ada, because Ada is attracted to Kawaki and she wants Kawaki to fall in love with her, and to be her prince. However weird that may be, but this plan of Code's to take Kawaki has been on a downward spiral ever since Boruto entered the battlefield, and it is now escalated even further to the point it is now out of his hands to do anything. But I thought you were our main villain! And I'm here to explain what's currently going on and how this has escalated so far, and why it is so extremely important right now that Code just leaves the battlefield to go retrieve Amato, and why this is most likely going to happen. But before I can do that, if you haven't noticed, the intro to the video hasn't played yet, and that is one very sloth sin. So I will see you after this.
Human child.
So, that was an overly long intro just for one video, wasn't it? But if I'm gonna be honest, I don't particularly regret it, so let's just move on to the video. Code going into this meeting with Kawaki was in a very good position, with him being significantly more powerful than Kawaki at the time, and Kawaki basically not being able to do anything effective against Code. And everything that he tried amounted to nothing. But then, Boruto, our main character, enters the battlefield in order to help Kawaki fight. and uses his karma in order to fight Code, using Naruto's famous Shadow Shuriken technique and his very own lightning-style thunderclap arrow. But all of that ultimately amounted to nothing, only managing to get a slight compliment out of Code. And it wasn't even about Boruto's power. Code just found that fighting a shinobi seems to be something that he finds relatively interesting. Code was bobbing and weaving Boruto left and right, and he didn't see Boruto as a threat at all. Code at this point still had one large upper hand and was still in a good position. Well, that was until Code activated his own karma in order to bring out more of Momoshiki's power from Boruto's body. Code's karma started resonating with Boruto's karma seal, allowing Boruto to unlock his second coming main shonen protagonist plot amp. Honestly, what a surprise! Due to this phenomenon, Boruto was able to activate his second state to his karma seal. This karma pattern and color was like the pattern his karma had when Momoshiki had taken over Boruto's body, just without Momoshiki being present in this form. This was the first time we had ever seen something like this happen, and it seems to be something that is unique to Boruto's situation. And I say that because even when Kawaki had absorbed a whole lot of chakra from Garo in their fight, and his karma started to change to the color of red, meaning his Karma 1 state was at its full power. With all that amount of chakra being absorbed and being able to achieve this, Kawaki's karma still never progressed to its second state. This could be explained by Kawaki at that time not being far enough into his, his otsutsusification. What an interesting word. Meaning he wouldn't have been far enough into becoming an Otsutsuki as Boruto would be now, to allow Kawaki to even be able to have access to a possible Karma version 2. Anyways, Boruto with his Karma version 2 state was actually able to start pressing Code, matching him in both speed and strength. I actually estimate that Boruto is using about 40 to 60% of Momoshiki's power in order to combat Code. I say this because we know that Boruto is only 80% of Momoshiki, so when Momoshiki takes over Boruto's body, he would only have access to the 80% of his own power that has been installed inside of Boruto's body. I don't see how Momoshiki in possession of Boruto's body would have access to any more than 80% of his power. If only 80% of himself is installed inside of Boruto's body, and he is taking over Boruto's body, he should only be able to use the power that is downloaded inside of Boruto. So, if this is the case, Borushiki should only be using 80% of Momoshiki's power, which brings us back to Boruto and his Karma V2. If this is 80%, then Boruto using this should be somewhere around 40 to 60%. Yes, it is somewhat of a jump in logic, but I think it makes sense, at least to some extent. Alright, now let's get back to the topic at hand. And got really close to being able to deal heavy damage on Code with his invisible Rasengan, but Code was able to get out of the way via his claw marks. Code still did have the upper hand on Boruto, and Ada even told Code to stop playing around with him and take things more seriously, before, you know, something bad happens. Damn. So this basically does imply that Code is still above Karma version 2 Boruto, which means that he would be above about 60% of Momoshiki's power, or 40% depending on which percentage you want to go with. But apparently Boruto wasn't going all out either, which is an odd thing to say, but okay. And when he tries to use the max power that his karma can output, something bad happens, and Boruto has a stroke of some sort. And because of this, Momoshiki was able to take the front seat and took over Boruto's body. And it's here where things start to take a turn for the worse for Code. unfortunately. Momoshiki in possession of Boruto's body becomes even more powerful than the Boruto that we just saw fight Code before. In fact, because of the way Momoshiki took over Boruto's body this time around, Borushiki's even more powerful than he was in his previous showings. As I'm sure we all know, Momoshiki, when he usually takes control over Boruto's body, Boruto is low on chakra, or has been severely injured. Because of this, when Momoshiki would awaken, he would only have access to a very finite amount of chakra. If he were to restore that chakra, he would quickly find himself being put back to bed. What an incredibly frustrating existence Momoshiki must have. But this time is different because of the way Boruto fell unconscious. Instead of running out of chakra, he had a stroke instead. We don't really know what caused this to happen, but it made Boruto's consciousness weak enough for Momoshiki to take over. This basically means that Borushiki would be able to use a body that has chakra in it, unlike before. Momoshiki having control over Boruto's body, again, made him one absolute beast. With him being able to stand up and talk smack to Code with absolutely no problem. It's even directly stated that Borushiki's even stronger than Code, but not so much stronger to where he can beat him in 2.5 seconds. Code was still able to get out of the way of multiple giant Rasengans being pushed towards him via his claw marks. If Borushiki was massively stronger than Code, I don't think that Code would be able to achieve this. From what I've seen so far, what makes Momoshiki stronger than Code is the fact that he can use ninjutsu, and can absorb jutsu himself. I haven't gotten the impression that Momoshiki is massively faster and physically stronger than Code. Even his speed blitz, and I'll explain that in a second. Code is finding himself in an incredibly stressful situation, and his chance of being able to achieve his goals are slimming as the minutes go by. This had escalated a lot more than he originally anticipated. And because of this, Ko decides to take Kawaki as a hostage, someone Borushiki cannot kill because he needs Kawaki in order to achieve his very own goal. This is the second time Ko has tried leaving the battlefield with Kawaki. The first time was when he was fighting Boruto and Boruto was using his Karma V2, and Boruto stopped him from being able to take Kawaki. This time it was with a brand new Rasengan that Momoshiki had created called the Raseng Bullet. This Rasengan is very fast, and it was fast enough for Ko to not be able to properly react in order to get out of the way, and it ended up going straight through Ko's shoulder. Many people have been comparing this Rasengan that Momoshiki had created to Boruto's very own high compression Rasengan. Although they do look similar, I do not think that they are the same thing. And that is mainly because the high compression Rasengan is a lot more destructive than what was shown here. This Rasengan only put a tiny little dent inside of Ko's shoulder. If this was the high compression Rasengan and it went straight through, it would have completely blown Ko's shoulder apart, and not just leave a tiny little dent inside of Ko's shoulder, especially coming from Momoshiki's own hands. I think that it is a lot more likely that he is just making a tiny Rasengan with his fingers. Just like Boruto's invisible Rasengan, it is small, but it is not a high compression Rasengan. How the high compression Rasengan works is that it is taking a whole lot of chakra and is compacting it into one small point. This would be different than just having the Rasengan just be small. This would be similar to shoving a whole bunch of feathers together to the point it is the same size of the original feather, but because there's a lot more feathers inside of the compacted version of the feather, it would in turn weigh more but still be the same size. But if you were to throw this feather at someone, one would have actual impact and one would feel like nothing. Yeah, I will admit that was a very weird way to explain what I meant, but I hope you get the general gist of what I was trying to say. Anyways, moving on. Code gets hit by the Raseng bullet, and then Momoshiki proceeds to run up to Code and kick him in his face. Many people have been calling this proof that Borushiki is massively faster than Code. I don't really see this as proof that Momoshiki is massively faster than Code. Code was just staggered by the Raseng bullet, then Momoshiki proceeded to just run up to him, while Code was dissociated. To me, this just proves that Momoshiki's ninjutsu is much faster than Code, and maybe not so much his physical body, because what was making Momoshiki such a problem for Code to be able to fight was Momoshiki's ninjutsu, and the fact that it was too overwhelming for Code to keep up with for too long. Because as we know, Momoshiki's ninjutsu has very high destructive capabilities. So even if they were the slightest bit relative in terms of speed and strength like I think they are, Momoshiki's ninjutsu would be the thing that would put him quite a bit higher than Code. Which is why Ada stating that Code won't last long against a power like Momoshiki makes sense, and that Code should probably just retreat. Code would not be able to keep up with Momoshiki's arsenal since Code cannot absorb ninjutsu with his white karma seal, since Code's karma only gives him access to the physical power amp that the karma gives you, and not so much the hacks that comes with having a regular karma seal. Momoshiki even makes fun of it and calls it a dud karma, which is why Code struggles so much to fight Momoshiki due to his lack of jutsu negation, effectively making our main antagonist of this arc no longer the big dog on the battlefield, sidelining him as soon as he gets a chance to do something. Poor Code, all those chapters of build-up with you are definitely going to go somewhere, right? Right? As for why Code can't absorb any jutsu, well, we don't really know, but I have a feeling that it has something to do with Code's limiters, or the fact that he has no Otsutsuki DNA inside of his body. Those are just two possibilities that I have. I do have some more theories about Code's karma seal, but I'd like to save those for a different video, and this video is already pretty long, so yeah. Anyways, Code gets sent flying via Momoshiki's kick, and stops himself from being pushed back any further with his claw marks. Momoshiki then grabs Kawaki and then proceeds to absolutely violate him with a heavy and quick kick to the face. Man, Kawaki's being hit by every single person in this fight. Code, BORUTO, Momoshiki, they've all hit Kawaki at least once. He was literally just a punching bag in these chapters. So after that, Naruto and Shikamaru then enter the battlefield to help fight. Their amazing two-step plan in order to help this fight, and their great contribution, and no, Shikamaru immediately gets captured as a hostage by Code. How incredibly helpful. Thanks Shikamaru, you were a great help. And Naruto does absolutely nothing.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Thanks, Boruto writers, it's not like we wanted to see Naruto use his Sage Mode to fight or anything. That would be dumb. We definitely did not get baited. No one wanted to see that happen, it's called Boruto. Code took Shikamaru as a hostage as soon as Naruto entered the fight in order to give himself some leverage on at least someone on the battlefield, because the situation just keeps getting worse and worse and more chaotic, and Code would be under the assumption that he would have to deal with Momoshiki and Naruto at the same time, since they were both going to try and fight him. So he did this as a way to stop Naruto from coming after him so he could focus his full attention on Momoshiki, who was also trying to kill Code. Code told Naruto if Naruto moved from the spot that he was in, that he would kill Shikamaru. Shikamaru pleads as Naruto to just let him die so he can fight. But this is Naruto we're talking about, Shikamaru's best friend, so he said, well, no. He said no. Idiot. Kawaki then proceeds to run and attack Momoshiki again, and then again gets promptly kicked in the face. Again, yeah, honestly, looking back at it, it was pretty obvious that Kawaki was going to get a plot power-up. Because Momoshiki also finds Naruto to be a problem for him and a nuisance as well, he decides to help Code get rid of Naruto for now, since it would be in his own benefit. Momoshiki then turns his way to the Hokage in order to talk some smack, and then shoves one massive Rasengan into Naruto's face, and then Naruto dies.
Brother, this guy stinks!
Sorry, there is actually more to this chapter. My bad. Kawaki actually jumps in front of the giant Rasengan in order to absorb it with his karma. that suddenly comes out of, well, nowhere. We then actually get a panel of Kawaki, and we find out that he's actually in his Karma version 3 state, and he looks akin to Ishiki Otsutsuki, even having Ishiki's special dojutsu inside of his eye. And he was actually able to use most of Ishiki's special hacks abilities. He just cannot use them as well as Ishiki or even Jigen could use them. So this ultimately ends up spawning a whole bunch of questions like, how does Kawaki have access to Ishiki's special dojutsu, and not just his normal Byakugan? Because we know that Borushiki only has access to Momoshiki's Byakugan, and not the special Renegon that Momoshiki has on his hands. Why can Kawaki use Ishiki's special abilities when Borushiki using Momoshiki's Karma cannot use any of Momoshiki's special abilities? And many more questions like that. I guess we shall see what Boruto Chapter 67 ends up answering about these questions. Well, that is the end of the video. Well, at least it was going to be the end of the video, but there are a couple things that I wanted to address before I actually end up leaving. But before we get into that, this section of the video is actually being recorded about 3 weeks after Boruto Chapter 67 has actually dropped, while the rest of the video was recorded over a month ago. So yes, it really did take that long, and the video is only like 26 minutes, so that's kind of a yikes. As I said at the beginning of the video, there were many delays that I had while scripting, editing, and recording this video, which is why the video switches its topic 4 minutes into the video. And that was kind of accidental. While I was scripting this video, I went on this very long tangent about the chapters themselves instead of the original topic of the video, to the point the video kinda switched into more of an overview of, well, the chapters. And once I started to notice that I was doing that, I kind of just rode along with it. The video was already shifting into more of a breakdown of the code fight anyways, I might as well just go along with it. Because if I kept going on this very long tangent about the chapters themselves, and then went back to the original point and then just kept doing that over and over again, the video would have ended up being even more of a mess. So, I think I made the right call. Maybe. Actually, I don't really know. I think I did. Anyways, oh well. All in all, the timeline of me making this video has been one pretty big mess. Combine that with me being a slow editor, and you get this video taking significantly longer than it should have. All I can say now is that hopefully delays do not happen like this again, and I'm going to try harder to manage my content making going forward. Anyways, there are a few things that I wanted to address before I end this video, starting with number 1. After the new info that we got from Boruto Chapter 67, the whole Code versus Borushiki part of the video and my opinions on that fight have now been muddied. I still don't find that fight to be particularly that good of proof for Momoshiki being massively stronger and faster than Code. And when I say that, I mean physically, not Momoshiki's ninjutsu. Momoshiki's ninjutsu was clearly shown to be faster than Code, but I just did not get good proof of that physically. The most I got from that was that Momoshiki was overall more powerful than Code, but I did not get the idea that Momoshiki was massively stronger than Code in terms of physical prowess. But in Boruto Chapter 67, we get to see Kawaki fight Code, and he completely overpowers him physically. And in Boruto Chapter 66, Borushiki and Kawashiki were shown to be relative in terms of speed and strength. So of course, by proxy, Momoshiki would also be physically stronger than Code by quite a substantial margin as well. So all in all, I don't think that I agree with my original assessment. And yes, I know, I could have cut that part of the video out of the video since I no longer particularly agree with it, but it was already edited. Not only that, since I put a warning at the start of the video stating when this video was recorded, I didn't think that it was necessary. Alright, now that I got that out of the way, I think it's about time I wrap this video up and give my scores of these Boruto chapters. Since this video is practically an overview of some sort. So, here we go. Boruto Chapter 63 gets a 5.5 out of 10. This does not mean that I think that the chapter was bad, by any means. A 5 out of 10 for me means that I think that it was average, not bad. I just didn't think that there was anything particularly outstanding or all that great about the chapter. I just thought it was just okay, your average Boruto chapter. So it gets a 5 out of 10. Boruto chapter 64 gets a solid 6 out of 10. Seeing Naruto go in Sage mode for the first time was really cool. He looked real drippy. I liked the brief conversation that Naruto and Hinata had, where Naruto basically tells Hinata to stay home. That doesn't sound all that interesting, but I like the implications of why Naruto is telling Hinata to stay home. Naruto's reasoning is basically if Naruto and Hinata were both to go onto the battlefield, and they were both to potentially die, since Naruto has no idea if he'll come back alive or not, he would essentially be risking Himawari and Boruto becoming orphans. Of course, like he was. And because of the stuff that we know went down in Boruto chapter 66, where Kawaki essentially kills Boruto, if Momoshiki did not transfer 18% of his DNA in order to revive Boruto, Boruto would end up being dead, leaving Himawari completely alone. And of course, that's not something that Naruto would want to put his daughter through, so ultimately he made the right call. So yeah, I liked that. The Code vs Boruto fight was okay. It was fine. I'm really not the biggest fan of how the Boruto manga writes and draws its fights. It's just whatever to me. It was okay. How Boruto fights in the manga isn't particularly all that interesting, but ultimately I still did like the fight. I just think that it would have been cool to see Boruto incorporate more of his jutsu, like his one-style Gale Palm and his Boruto Stream attacks, in order to try and launch himself with his shadow clones at Code. Of course, in an attempt to speed blitz Code before he can enter his claw marks. Another thing that I think would have been cool is if Boruto covered the entire area with his water style, and then wherever Code would pop out next, he would shoot his lightning style thunderclap arrow to then electrocute the entire surrounding area in an attempt to again hit Code. Just having Boruto use his shadow clones and ninjutsu in more creative ways, rather than it just being punches, kicks, and Rasengans. Boruto truly pulling out all the stops in jutsu in order to combat Code, and just barely managing to get the upper hand each time, but ultimately failing. This would have made the fight more interesting and dynamic for me, and would have made it more impactful, in my opinion. It also could have maybe made Code feel like a more threatening villain. But I will say, in this Boruto vs Code fight, I did find Code to be the more interesting combatant. The way that he was using his claw marks in order to stab through Boruto's shadow clone chests in pretty savage ways, I found to be cool and a creative way to showcase his abilities, and to make it different than Minato's flying Raijin teleportation jutsu. Alright, one more thing that I have to say about this fight is that I found Boruto not using his Byakugan in this fight was also a missed opportunity, since we know that Boruto does train in the Hyuga fighting style. He just does not have the Byakugan to properly use those techniques. And we actually found this out via one of the Boruto novels. There is a theory that Boruto couldn't use his Byakugan because of the Byakugan suppressant pills that Boruto was taking would have hindered him from being able to properly access it. That was never confirmed or denied inside the chapters themselves, but I do like the idea and I think it makes sense. So yeah, I liked the chapter, 6 out of 10. Now on to the next chapter. Chapter 65 gets a 6 out of 10, and if I'm going to be perfectly honest, I really do not have a whole lot to say about this chapter. Other than me liking Momoshiki taking over Boruto's body for the 3rd time, and me not liking how Shikamaru was utilized inside this chapter, I feel like they nerfed his brain and he's not as intelligent or strategical as he used to be, and that's kind of a problem because it's a bit out of character. Other than that, there's really not a whole lot for me to delve into in terms of this chapter. It was just Momoshiki being pretty darn cool. Anything else that I'd have to say about this chapter wouldn't have to do with this chapter specifically. It would be me delving into other Boruto chapters that I did not cover inside of this video. So, I think I'm gonna end it here. Also, this video is getting pretty long and I'm trying to drop this video sometime this year. So, I think I'm just going to end it here. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's very late, and for that, I apologize. It feels really good to be done with this video. It's been a very long time, and I'm just ready to move on to something else. But if you did enjoy this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I have a new video coming out soon. Don't worry, it's already recorded. And I will see you guys next time. Goodbye! Wait, what is this? What am I looking at? Please don't freak out, sir. You know, BORUTO Chapter 68 comes out on the 18th. Well, it's not my fault that you're a moron. But that's in 2 days. Oh, you cannot be serious. Well, shit.